feeling the cold day rush up around my body when I stepped off of the grate. And I packed all of our things into my girl here, making sure to put the emergency stuff on top. Like that quilt Willie got from the mission the Christmas before, and the first aid kit that I found in the park over in Pennsylvania after that Red Cross function. I even took that bottle that Willie kept hid, despite knowing how I felt about booze and all. Well, he never even knew that I knew his hiding place in that loose cinder block until that day I went huffing up to the mission, puffing my breath out in front of me in little clouds, and there was Willie out in front of the mission building, both of them in one piece I could see. He's dancing around in the cold without a coat on. Only one out there, save for that new young priest from Cleveland, the one that never wore a collar and eventually got sent somewhere else. Well, he was trying to get a coat on my Willie, but the old boy just kept dancing around. That priest never did know how to handle my Willie. Well, I thought it odd then that there was just the two of them out there. I mean, usually the mission's crowded about that time, especially in the winter. Well, by the time I finally got up to the building, even the priest had given up and had run off down the street to the river. And there was only Willie, his eyes big as hen's eggs, waving his arms and pointing his gray bare finger down the street after where the priest had gone. "He come back, Elizabeth," he was yelling. "He come back. Jesus Christ, come back," just like he said in Revelations. Well, he sounded just like he must have when he was a Baptist preacher somewhere down south. I saw him like a big silver bird come down on the bridge. Well, now that's when I knew it must have been a plane crash. Willie, he just kept dancing around and singing some old church song about down by the riverside. Well, I was only getting cold. So I parked my girl against the building with her wheels pointing to the wall so she wouldn't roll back down the hill. That's something I learned the hard way. I had to chase after her 3 blocks one time. Anyways, where was I? Oh, yeah, the mission. So I picked up this coat that the priest had dropped, and I fought to get it around Willie while he's trying to convince me that it's Judgment Day. He was raving about how he's ready for heaven, just waiting for Jesus to come and get him. Well, he explained how all the other old boys and ladies from the mission had gone down to the river. But Willie said he didn't want to make Jesus mad by rushing down there all self-righteous like and assuming he was fit for heaven. Told me that Jesus would come by when he wanted to and choose for himself who would go with him and who wouldn't. And then he muttered some Bible verse about them that wait on the Lord. Well, I just kept nodding and fought to get that coat around Willie so he wouldn't catch his death of cold. I even got him to put on a pair of gloves that I'd found earlier in the day by telling him we were getting dressed up for Jesus. You see, people like Willie, you gotta humor them a little and still respect what they believe or what they think they believe. Well, anyway, when I finally got him calmed down, he smiled and told me how glad he was that I'd be there to see him off in case Jesus didn't find me fit to go along. Now that's when I got a little mad. I mean, here I pushed this heavy girl 3 blocks up that hill, worrying that he'd been maimed or killed, and he was telling me I may not be fit for heaven. But I bit my lip and held my temper, something I got from my mother's side. And I tried to convince him to go into the mission and get some supper, but he just stood there. I tried to tell him it was only a plane crash, but he acted deaf. So then I reasoned with him. I said, well, now, if Jesus being the Son of God and all, you know, he'll know that Willis Carver Jackson's just inside the mission getting himself a good meal before the trip. But if Willis stayed outside and caught pneumonia, well, then God might not let Jesus bring him into heaven and spread them germs around to all the angels and souls. Willie listened that. So I guided him through the doors and into the mission. And I parked my girl out behind the dumpster out back and went in to join him for some supper. Well, by that time, some of the folks were coming back from the river, talking all about the commotion. And the young priest in the turtleneck sweater, he got up in front and told us all about the plane crash. Well, I think Willie finally believed it then, because I saw tears in his eyes. And then the priest, he had us all kneel down and say the Lord's Prayer together. Well, Willie knelt too, but he talked to God like he was some old buddy of his. I mean, spoke to the Almighty in normal, everyday words, and louder than the rest of us, like him and God were the only ones in the mission. Oh, I didn't understand things well then. At the time, I sure was embarrassed. Well, by the time we got back to them subway grates, all of them were taken just as I feared. No room even if somebody had offered. So Willie and I, we wandered over to that park on Pennsylvania Avenue, found us a place in the bushes near a lamppost where I figured we'd be safe from muggers. Oh, we got everything out we could cover us up with, and we huddled together to wait for morning. Well, of course, Willie, he fell asleep right away, snoring loud as usual, but I couldn't sleep. No, it wasn't because of the snoring. That always let me know Willie was alive. It's because I had this awful feeling that we weren't going to make it if I fell asleep in the cold. But if I stayed awake and made sure Willie kept breathing, we could make it. Well, you know, looking back, I know now that it was that jet plane crash had death worrying me. We'd been through colder nights. Oh, but at the time, I felt sure that if I dozed off, we were doomed. But I did it. Kept my eyes open while the sky rolled over us. The moon up there somewhere, shining behind the clouds. But shining all night, I knew. Yeah, I sang some nursery rhymes at first to keep my mind alert. Then I sang the only songs I could remember from Catholic school, Christmas carols like Away in the Manger, from the Christmas programs we used to put on. Sang them over and over again, till they didn't even seem like songs anymore. And then I tried to remember some of them hymns that Willie sang from his days as a preacher. There was this one, I could only remember one line from, just a closer walk with thee, just a closer walk with thee. Well, I just sang that one line over and over to the whole song. And I did that again and again until the first hint of sun on the horizon. Well, a few times during the night, Willie stopped snoring, and I put my ear to his mouth. Breath I could hear, going in and out of him, warm and alive. Well, I prayed a little thank you that morning. It was the first time I tried to talk to God in my own words instead of saying some prayer I learned in Catholic school. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember feeling like he heard me. It was my first real feeling of God. First time since I was a girl that I really believed someone was listening. I didn't know it would get better later.